About a month ago, I treated myself to the EMEO digital saxophone. So, I'm going to introduce it to you today. We'll take a look together at what it is, what it does, what it doesn't do, its advantages, and its drawbacks. By the end of this video, you'll have a really good idea of whether or not you want to get this saxophone. Before we get started, just to be clear, I'm not here to convince you to buy or not buy this saxophone. I'm not being paid by the company, and I bought the EMEO saxophone myself. So what I'm sharing with you today is really my honest opinion, in full transparency. That being said, I was able to get a 5% discount from the company for you, in case you're interested. So, I'll put the code in the description. So what exactly is this EMEO saxophone? It's actually a MIDI saxophone. What does that mean? Basically, it's a MIDI controller that sends information. So you inevitably need a program, whether it's on an iPad, an iPhone, Android works too, or even better, on a computer. Because unfortunately, and this is one of the downsides, but we'll get to that later, there's no built-in sound in this saxophone, and I think that's probably its biggest flaw. So, you inevitably need external sounds. It's really just a controller, unlike other digital saxophones. So that can be a problem, but it's not the end of the world since you can use whatever sound you want with whatever programs you want on your computer. We'll talk more about that later anyway. What first attracted me to this sax, I'd say, is the mechanics, because I've tried EWIs and other controllers and other digital saxophones in my life, and I didn't like the robotic feel, that it wasn't like a real saxophone. Basically, it's a different instrument altogether, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I play the saxophone and I didn't feel like starting to learn a new instrument. I also wanted to feel just as comfortable on this instrument and not have to start practicing every day like I do with my sax. So this really is, and I'm telling you, saxophone mechanics. The size is pretty much like an alto in terms of how it plays. So you can go from the sax to another saxophone without any problem at all. There's really no difference when it comes to dexterity. It's honestly really nice. So how does it work? It's truly a saxophone body with real pads and springs. When you blow into it without turning on a program, there's absolutely no sound. The only thing you hear is the keys like this. So basically, you can play anytime, anywhere. You can also change the resistance, meaning you can set it from easier to harder, just like if you had a 1.5, 2, 2.5, or 3 reed. So the saxophone will respond accordingly. Personally, I set it to medium because I find it's a good compromise. So it really works. If you blow more or less air, it will respond according to the sound you'll get. But if you have a sound that's more like a trumpet or a flute, for example, if you blow harder, you'll get a louder sound. If you blow less hard, the sound will be softer, just like a real sax. If you're a tenor, alto, or even a flute player, you can change the key to your liking. That is, you can set it to be flat, E flat, or C. For me, since my ear is more used to be flat because I play a lot of tenor sax, I set the EMEO sax to be flat. I know a lot of standards in that key. So for me, it's definitely easier, and also for my ear. So I think it's cool to set it to be flat. You can also change the octave. Let's say you pick a basic sound. You can set the octave lower or even 2 octaves lower. Same thing if you have more of a flute or trumpet sound, you can go up a whole octave without having to change the way you play. And what's really fun about this is that you can play all sorts of different sounds. And for a saxophonist who's had the same sound for about 30 years, being able to keep the same dexterity and change up the sound is really a unique experience in itself. Honestly, I feel like a kid with this because I'm experimenting with all kinds of sounds, and it still feels like I'm playing my sax, but it's not the same sound I'm hearing. Actually, you'd find that with any other digital saxophone anyway. So, I'm not doing an unboxing video here, but it does come with a bunch of accessories right out of the box. So this here, the strap to hold it. It also comes with a mouthpiece. It comes with an alto mouthpiece, which I don't really vibe with. I prefer this kind of mouthpiece here, which basically just lets you blow air into it. And it also comes with 2 different necks. One that's straight like this one, and also this one that's curved. That's just a matter of personal preference. Personally, I prefer the straight one like this because I find with the curved one, you're kind of all cramped up like this. So, what are the advantages of this saxophone? The main one, I'd say, is that you can play anywhere at any time because there's really no sound coming out of it. I tried it out here. I was playing at 6 in the morning in the kitchen. Everyone was asleep and nobody woke up because I wasn't making any noise. Everything was coming through my headphones. So that's really amazing. You could play in a car while traveling. You could play anywhere in a hotel room, even at night. So that's really, really cool for that. And I did a gig yesterday with it and I used it a lot because my saxophone was a bit too loud for the room since there weren't many people. It was very small. Yes, I could have played very softly on my saxophone, but I took the opportunity to try this out a bit more to test it. And then, it was fun because I was playing like I normally do and people didn't think it was too loud because you set the volume you want with this. Another big advantage, which I mentioned earlier, is that the mechanics are exactly like those of a real saxophone. So, you don't have to get used to a different instrument like the EWI. The EWI is very difficult. It's a really incredible instrument, much more flexible than this one. We'll talk about it later, but it's a different instrument altogether. So you have to practice, you have to keep yourself in shape on the EWI as well. I'm speaking here from my own experience with the EWI. I've already dabbled with it, but I found it complicated, really complicated. I was losing all my bearings, my dexterity, all of that. So with this, there's no problem. Another advantage is that it's super portable. So, you can take it with you. There's a little case, it comes with a really small case. You can really take it anywhere with you. So there's no excuse if you're going on vacation or anything like that, you'll definitely have room to bring it along, and that's exactly what I'm going to do myself. And on that note, it brings me to say that you can play with a phone, even with an iPhone, though in that case it's via Bluetooth. You can play with an iPad, probably with other tablets too, and it's also compatible with computers. So now, if we talk about it, there's an app that comes with it. It's called Respiro. There are several sounds you can modify and the sounds are decent, but let's be honest, they're a bit synthetic. But hey, it comes with it so you can already have some fun. What I did was buy a Harman new trumpet sound, kind of like Miles Davis, if you will. And I've always dreamed of playing that, but I'm just not able to play the trumpet. So for me, having this opportunity to play a bit like I was a trumpet player, well, it'll never be the same. Let's be honest, but it's also just for fun that we do this. So I'm really, really having a blast with that sound. And I also bought another plugin called Contact by Native Instruments. And in Contact, there are quite a few sounds as well. There's really no end to it. You can buy as many sounds as you want. You just have to be careful though, they need to be breath controlled or controller sounds. That's what breath control is. For example, I have tons of sounds in Ableton Live or Logic Pro, whether it's piano sounds or anything percussion related or whatever. With that, it's not ideal because basically, it doesn't detect that you're blowing air, it's just on or off. So it sounds a bit like tack 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 tack, kind of choppy. You really need sounds that are made for this, but there are actually a lot of them out there. So it's not a big deal, you just need to know about it so you don't make mistakes when you're buying. Now, there are a few drawbacks, in my opinion, to this. First off, well, I think it's a bit of a shame that there's no built-in sound, because it makes things a bit more complicated. So if you're really not comfortable with electronics, maybe this isn't the saxophone for you. I had to do a bit of searching myself. I actually managed pretty well in that area. So it went fine. But sometimes, even I found it a bit complicated. Now it's all good, everything's fine. I understand how it works, but I think it would be cool if this company eventually integrated some sounds. So, you just plug it in, hook it up to a speaker or whatever, headphones, and it would work like an EWI, for example. That would really be a great improvement to make. The other thing I like a bit less is that, actually, I can't do vibrato with this. Unlike the EWI as well, the EWI lets you do vibrato. You can set the mouthpiece to do it. So that takes away a bit of expression, of articulation, in that regard. So I cheat a little when it comes to vibrato. Instead of vibrating, I kind of soften it. I blow less forcefully. So it gives a sort of effect. That's how I play with this sax, but it's obviously not ideal. And since you inevitably have to buy other sounds, that's an extra expense. So, it might not fit every budget. Afterwards, do I think it's worth it? Yes, but you still have to keep in mind that you'll probably have to spend more money after buying this. Another drawback, and this one is very important. When I got this sax, I played for 2 hours and what I did was put an alto mouthpiece here because you can do that. Actually, they even provide one. So I played for 2 hours with my reed, my mouthpiece, with this, except the reed doesn't really vibrate. Basically, what you do is, yes, you blow into your mouthpiece, but there's a resistance that means your reed will never vibrate. So what happens is your embouchure shifts a bit. So, I played with that setup for 2 hours, the alto mouthpiece. And then, I came here to my studio and thought, okay, I'll play a bit of tenor sax just for fun. And then, I had trouble playing. My embouchure was completely off. I had to do long tones for 10-15 minutes to get myself back on track. I was in total panic, honestly. And then I told myself, I won't be able to play this sax. It's impossible because I'll always have to readjust afterwards. So what I did is I took this mouthpiece, and basically, with this mouthpiece, you just blow air and do attacks. So, you're not going to play or blow or work on your embouchure the same way as when you play your traditional saxophone. So now, when I use this, I just blow into the sax and it's fine. And I do attacks, of course. And when I pick up my tenor saxophone, it's fine too. I even tried it out at a gig and there really wasn't any problem. So, be careful if you ever get this saxophone and you want to experiment with a real saxophone mouthpiece, if you want. You might have the same problem as me. Or maybe not, but I wanted to let you know. So that brings me to the next point. If you're just starting out on saxophone and you're thinking, oh, that's perfect, I'm going to get this. I have neighbors, I won't bother anyone. And then, eventually, I could buy a real saxophone and play normally. Well, you won't be able to do that because this saxophone doesn't work on the mouthpiece, the embouchure, or the way you blow at all. Basically, whether it's me, you, or anyone else blowing into this, it'll make the same sound no matter what sound you put in, no matter how much air you blow, but there's no actual sound work involved. So it's really just an add-on to your real saxophone, if you want. If you want to practice your dexterity, if you want to work on passages, learn tunes, learn standards, practice your improvisation, practice your scales, it's excellent. But if you want to work on your sound, your embouchure, this isn't the saxophone you'll do it with. So, do I regret buying it? Absolutely not. Would I recommend you buy this saxophone? That's not for me to decide. I think it's an extremely interesting tool to have, if you've got the budget, of course. If you want to play anywhere, if you want to have fun with sounds other than a saxophone sound, that's fun too. If you want to practice without bothering others, that's also an incredible advantage. I think it's more expensive than other saxophones in the same category, if you will. But what really won me over was the mechanics. And just for that, I think it's worth the price. So, if you decide to go with this saxophone and you'd like to get 5% off, I have a code you can use or not, just below in the description. I'll see you soon. Bye.